Hi, my name is Andrew Carroll. I'm from Lucinda, Pennsylvania, a small town about 2 hours north of Pittsburgh, about 500 people, and my heritage is Irish German.
So, who was the relative that made the initial jump from Europe to the United States?
Well, my ancestors immigrated from Europe. So on my dad's side, it was a Carroll that came from Ireland. His wife was a Levi that came from Ireland. Both of them were around Cork County, Ireland.
What would you say are some factors that may have pulled them or to the U.S. or pulled them away from Ireland?
So on the Irish side, they were having a potato famine, and after the famine, there was not enough potatoes for families because they had limited land, and they were seeking greater opportunities. Pennsylvania was very rich in natural resources for both farming, iron ore, coal, timber. So it was a very opportunistic place to establish themselves.
So, how would you say your cultural traditions have held up in the United States?
A lot of traditions, very popular where I grew up. Tradition is of hunting. That tradition of hunting remains very popular in our town. Other traditions around food. It's very common for the town, my family, my brother. We make sauerkraut every year by hand, homemade cabbage. The recipe's handed down generation to generation. You know, it's kind of a secret, but a lot of things around food are very commonly passed down.
You said earlier that there were other family members already in the United States, correct?
Correct.
Do you think there was any incentive or pulling force from the already here in the United States relatives?
Yeah, I think there was a lot of support given to the people that were here to incent more relatives to come over, to give them places to live, actually to help them on the larger tracts of land that they were acquiring. They needed help. They needed help to run and manage the farm.
So, as my dad was saying, the first people of Carroll descent to step foot on American soil were Mr. Thomas Carroll and Mrs. Mary Ann Levy. They both lived in a region of Ireland called Cork County, and they both came to America at the same time. They met each other at some point in America and moved to Clarion County, where they started a family in a small town named Lucinda. They were both push and pull factors that contributed to their migration, like the Irish potato famine and like the promise of better land in America. As far as I know, there were no intervening opportunities for the couple, so they did end up going to their original option of emigration. One more thing I would also like to mention is the principle of distance decay. Now, this principle was not seen in my dad's immigration. In fact, what happened was the opposite, with his traditions still being carried over from Ireland and Germany, like making sauerkraut and hunting. But what usually happens is when a group of people immigrate to another country, their traditions will kind of be lost, and they will kind of gain the traditions of that country that they immigrated to. Some other things that were not mentioned in my dad's immigration were step migration, and that's when a migrant follows a path or series of stages towards a final destination. So, for example, you're trying to move to New York. So first you move to Buffalo, then you move to a small city a mile outside of New York, and then you finally move into a small suburb outside of New York then you finally move to New York. You are climbing up the steps of migration. That's why it's called step migration. A couple other things, including remittances, which is when already migrated relatives or family members are sending money back to their home country to give those people living in poverty a better chance at life. Another one is the gravity model, which basically says that the larger an object, or in this case, the larger a city is, the more people it will draw in. So, for example, New York is a huge city, so that's why I drew in a lot of immigrants. And that's pretty much it. I'd like to say thank you to my dad for helping me out with this interview. And I'd like to thank everyone who is watching this video right now. So thanks and goodbye.